A perspective now from someone who's working outside of government to increase the number of female voices engaged in foreign policy discussions. Elmira Bayrasli is a writer and consultant who focuses on foreign policy, international development, and innovation. She's also the co-founder of the organization Foreign Policy Interrupted. She's in New York. So first, Ms. Bayrasli, tell me about the name, Foreign Policy Interrupted?
Yeah, Foreign Policy Interrupted, when we started the organization with my co-founder, Lauren Bond, what we didn't want to do is we didn't want it to be specifically ghettoizing women. Our purpose is to increase female voices in the media, on panels, as experts, but we want to increase those voices because we believe that it enriches the foreign policy discussion. And our focus is very much about foreign policy. It's about interrupting how foreign policy is being approached, talked about, and frankly, how it's being represented around the world. And the specific inspiration for the name of our organization came from Madeleine Albright, who, as you know, was the first female Secretary of State here in the United States. And she had once said, you know, it's not enough to be an expert and to know your material. You have to actually go out and interrupt. And so as a hat tip to her, but then also the purpose of really being focused on foreign policy, that's why we called it Foreign Policy Interrupted.
Based on your own experience, because I know you have international experience as well, how do women change the conversation then?
Women change the conversation because they simply have different expertise and different perspectives. And so our philosophy is that we don't want women at the table for the sake of them being women, but we want them there because they approach things from a different experience and a different purview. And that is so extremely important for foreign policy today. The challenges that we have in the 21st century are no longer something that white men in suits can hash out in oak-paneled rooms. We've got climate change, we've got global pandemics, we have now national security threats that are coming through cyberspace. We've got economic challenges. And with a globalized world where our economies are dependent on one another, we really need to tap into solutions and experts from all sorts of perspectives, not just from a one-dimensional national security perspective, which men tend to come from, because primarily men have been the ones who are in the war rooms, fighting on the front lines. And women, just by the nature of their experiences, are looking at things like education, health, energy, economic development. And what we've seen is those are the type of expertise that we need to have at the table today.
I know this is not your specific focus, but when you talk about those particular issues, what does a feminist foreign policy then mean to you?
I do have a problem with the notion of a feminist foreign policy. I think it should be a foreign policy for the 21st century. And I understand where that comes from. It's about including more women. It's about having diverse voices at the table. And that should definitely be the goal. But it should be the goal because we are now in a time and age where problems are coming at us so quickly. And so rather than calling it a feminist foreign policy, I think we should look at it as a foreign policy for the 21st century. And what that should be is tapping into the voices of not only women, but people from all economic backgrounds and different experiences, because the challenges that we're facing today, as we see when we turn on Facebook, whether we turn on cable news, or Twitter, it's coming at us in a rapid fire, and we need all hands on deck today.
How do you measure success?
We personally at Foreign Policy Interrupted have been measuring our success in terms of how many women are appearing on primetime cable and Sunday talk shows. And so since 2014, we've been working with Media Matters for America based in Washington and looking at the gender breakdown of guests who are speaking about foreign policy and national security on primetime cable and on Sunday talk shows. As you can imagine, those numbers are not great, although we saw a bump in it last year. In 2014, the breakdown was 22% women the remainder male. That dipped down in 2015, but last year the numbers went up. It was 24% women speaking about foreign policy and national security matters on primetime cable and Sunday talk shows. And one other thing that we're doing is we're actually looking at the breakdown of people who are writing opinion pieces in major dailies, but then also who journalists are going to as sources.
Well, thank you for being our expert on this today.
Thank you, Allison.